All right, guys, you know what time it is. It is the Milkman, and right now we're going to discuss this whole fiasco between Blueface, Adin Ross, and Wack100. Now, I know on the internet there are some people saying that this is Adin Ross's fault for conducting bad business and also rigging fights, and some people are saying that this was Blueface's fault for not adhering to the contractual deliverables that he signed to. However, in my opinion, I think this whole scenario was a result of Blueface not wanting to, not necessarily accept the loss, but I think he's trying to save his reputation from losing to Chibu. And one way on doing that is pretty much spinning the narrative to make it seem like Adin Ross was the reason why that he actually lost the fight. I'm going to be pulling up a bunch of different receipts and things to show you that, in essence, you know, ultimately, as Adin Ross has said on multiple occasions, it is legal. Technically, it is legal for him to bet on his own fights. However, it is unethical, and there are caveats for him to do that, right? Also, I think there's an additional element to this, and one that I haven't seen anyone really speak about, and it's the idea that I think that Blueface has already been paid for this fight. Yes, I said that. I think Blueface has already been paid, but I don't think he's been paid by Brandrisk specifically. I think he's been paid by Wack100, and there's reasons why I believe that. Now, before we go into this video, there's one thing that we do have to highlight, and that is the payment structure when it comes to Rainbet, Brandrisk, and then the fighter, right? So Rainbet is a sponsor. So they're basically putting the money, they're giving the money to Brandrisk, and then Brandrisk is like the middleman. The Brandrisk, Adin Ross gets the different fighters, says this is going to be the fight card, and then once these fighters hit the deliverables that is outlined in the contract, that's when Rainbet cuts the check. Adin Ross will more than likely pay the fighters directly. So technically you could say Adin Ross does pay the fighters, but I would say it more than likely does not come out of Adin Ross's pocket. It comes out of Rainbet's pocket, right? So as you guys know, this is where the tension pretty much started, right? So this was at the end of the fight, and this is what Blueface had to say.
You fought amazing, bro. First time at heavyweight. I give you your props. Again, this fight was kind of put together last minute. It was so hard to get you an opponent. Can we get you back in here, bro? Can we see you back in Brandrisk?
Hey, you know damn well you ain't gonna lose your own money on your own fight card. I definitely wouldn't score that in a unanimous decision. I'd give it 4-2. But hey, shout out to Brandrisk.
Shout out to Brandrisk. And Blue, if you do get back on Brandrisk, do you want a rematch or who do you want to fight?
I probably won't get back on Brandrisk because you tampering with the bets.
Wow. Never that. Never that. I don't know what he's talking about. Chibu!
All right. So now this kind of contradicts, in my opinion, this kind of contradicts what Wack100 said when he was speaking on the phone with Akademiks. Wack100 and Adin Ross was on the call. Wack100 says Blueface didn't know that Adin Ross owned Brandrisk. To me, the way Blueface is talking in this video or in this clip, I kind of feel like Blueface has an idea that Adin Ross has some sort of stake or has some sort of influence when it comes to Brandrisk hosted events, because he says, you know, shout out to you for, you know, putting money or making your fighters, for making your fighters succeed or whatever the case is. All right. And so we find out later on that this was one strike against Blueface when it came to the contract, because Adin Ross said that he was disparaging the decision. And that's one thing that, you know, Brandrisk was not tolerating, the disparagement of the decision of the fight. And on top of that, rightfully so. Like, imagine you get hired by a company and then in public you're disparaging your boss, you're criticizing your boss, right? This doesn't look good on the company. Of course, the company is going to have to pay you unless there's some sort of contractual stipulations that says you are not allowed to go into the public sphere and talk negatively about this company, because there may be some fines or there may be some deductions that will be incurred because of that. Okay, so the next clip we're going to get into, now this was shortly after the fight. So let's hear what Blueface has to say here.
It's not. Boxing is the sport comes with losses. How much did I make on the fight? Oh, I ain't gonna tell you how much I made, but I'll tell you that I made over 300,000. I'll let you guess from there. And that's just for the fight. That's not even including nothing else.
Okay, so Blueface says, I'm not going to tell you how much I made on the fight, but I'm going to tell you I made a little bit more, over 300,000. So, you know, that could be interpreted as him speaking about how much he made, even though he's saying he didn't talk about how much he made. So potentially in the eyes of Rainbet, that could be strike number 2, because again, in the contract, we don't have access to the contract, but apparently in the contract, it says you can't talk about how much money you made for the fight, and you can't disparage whether it's Rainbet or the judges, okay? Okay, so now I'm going to pull up a clip, because if you guys know, Charleston White was also one of the commentators during the fight, and he actually kind of echoes my sentiments in regards to me feeling that the only reason why this whole thing is going on is because Blueface made it bigger than what it was. So let's hear what Charleston White has to say.
Blueface and Wack100 is full of shit. That say, listen, I was ringside, man. Listen, that nigga Blueface lost that fight fair and square. Them nigga tried. Normally they fight 4 rounds. Brandrisk allowed Wack100 and Blueface to add an additional 2 rounds to make it fair. So they ain't putting that part in. Now come on, Wack. See, this is why I told Adin, man, don't do nothing with them gang banging California. I tell everybody in the hip hop, man, stay away. Every time you do something with them LA niggas, it's always trouble. It's always a problem. They're always trying to bully and strong arm something. From the minute that the LA niggas got there, they've been trying to bully and strong arm. They've been bullying and they've been trying to bully and strong arm Adin Ross from the beginning.
All right, so Charleston White basically says, listen, Blueface is salty, and this is the reason why everything is happening. Now, there's one thing that Wack100 consistently brings up, and it's a simple fact that he says, listen, Adin, I did you a favor in order for this fight to happen. Now, what is Wack100 talking about? So basically what Wack100 is saying is that originally Blueface was not going to fight on Brandrisk, okay? In fact, apparently Brandrisk was supposed to be held in February, and it was pushed back. However, what ended up happening was Brandrisk or Adin Ross and Wack100 got together, discussed it, and Adin Ross asked Wack100 to make it happen to get Blueface on the bill. So Blueface, now there was a bit of a conflict, because apparently the Swaggy P and Blueface fight was supposed to occur on May 2nd. So if the Brandrisk fight occurred in March, what would happen is there would be a potential conflict between the 2 fights. You're going to ask, well, how is there a conflict? There's 2 months. Now, what Wack100 basically broke down is a simple fact that if anything happens to Blueface during that fight, if he gets down, knocked out, if he takes the knee, then the fighter has to wait 60 days for another fight to occur, which would conflict with the fight with Swaggy P. So that's why you consistently hear Wack100 say, listen, Adin, I did you a favor. Now I need you to do me a favor. And I think the favor that Wack100 is trying to get Adin Ross to do for him is to not necessarily overlook, but just to smooth things out and pay me the money that I already paid Blueface. And later on, I'm going to explain the reason why I think Blueface has already gotten paid. So now, again, so this was the fight that was supposed to occur, or that's supposed to occur on May 2nd. And in all honesty, this is something that I think that doesn't benefit Blueface, this whole ordeal, because if I'm a league owner or if I'm a boxing promotional company and I see the way Blueface has addressed the Adin Ross situation, I'm going to be looking at it with a side eye, because again, if you own a business and you hear about a potential employee criticizing a previous boss out in public, that may prevent you, or you may be hesitant to hire that employee, because what if things don't work out between you two, right? That employee has a history of actually going into the public sphere and disparaging your company, okay? All right, so again, so now this is after the fight, right? And remember, Wack100 said, well, Blueface didn't know that Adin Ross owned Brandrisk. Okay, well, let's take a look, okay?
This should be against Brandrisk to bet on your own fighter.
You're going to close this company
That's
down
a fact.
real quick. Well, you know, the judges is Florida judges. They ain't Brandrisk judges. But the fight before it, if you look at the chat over there, Blueface got robbed. Blueface got robbed. But you did one hell of a job. You did a great job, one hell of a job. You executed. I don't give a fuck. You did your shit.
So on one hand, Blueface is saying that Adin Ross bet on the fight, right? But then on the other hand, behind the scenes, he's saying Brandrisk bet on the fight. So how is he conflating the two, or how is he confusing the two? Unless in his mind, he feels that Adin Ross has a stake or has some sort of interest in Brandrisk. So, and even Wack100 said that's a fact. Now, the fight he was talking about beforehand was the Gypsy Crusader versus Super Hot Fire fight, in which it contradicts what Blueface is talking about again, because Blueface is saying that Adin Ross rigged the fight. Okay, well, if that was the case, and Adin Ross wanted Super Hot Fire to win the fight previously, then why didn't the same thing occur with Gypsy Crusader? In fact, Gypsy Crusader came out and said, listen, you know, the judges judged the way they were supposed to. I won the fight, fair and square. That's it. Okay, so again, the whole excuse or the whole reasoning that Blueface lost the fight was apparently due to the judging, right? And the judging was a result of Adin Ross rigging or betting on his own fights. So what I did was, you know, I did a Google search, and I put in, is it illegal for a boxing promoter or manager to bet on their own fighter in Florida? Unfortunately, there isn't a specific document that I was able to pull up. So this is just an AI overview. And the AI overview indicates, while betting on one's own fighter is generally considered unethical, again, this is something Adin Ross has said on multiple occasions. It is not explicitly prohibited by Florida law in all instances. Though it is highly scrutinized and prohibited, it involves insider information or illegal gambling operations. So right here, they pull up a scenario. This was an article regarding the Seminole Tribal Gaming Commission, and I'm not too familiar with that. Now, let's talk about, though, and this section also highlights the same tribe situation. But what we're going to do is jump to conflict of interest. And what it says is, while some jurisdictions or promotions like the UFC, now, some people may be looking at, you know, can you bet on your own fighter in the UFC? The UFC apparently is strictly prohibited regarding this. So have specific rules prohibiting teams from betting on their own matches. Boxing rules are less centralized. However, a manager/promoter betting against, now that's the difference. That's the caveat. A manager or promoter betting against their own fighter or manipulating a match would likely face severe penalties, including license revocation by the Florida State Boxing Commission. Okay, so now, what does this mean? So when I was doing, and again, everyone, you have the opportunity to search for this stuff on your own if you want to corroborate what is said here. But apparently, it's not illegal for a manager or promoter to bet in favor of their fighter. Why is this the case? Because it is much harder or much more difficult to fix a fight when a manager or promoter is betting in favor of their fighter. Now, there is still the possibility that the fighting can be fixed, and how can they do that? They could approach the opposing fighter and say, listen, if you take a fall in the 5th round, then I'll give you a bonus of $50,000. However, that is absolutely risky because all it takes is for that opposing fighter to go to report the promoter and manager and say, he approached me to rig the fight. So that is the reason why, in terms of a promoter or manager trying to fix a fight against a favor of their own fighter, that is prohibited and that is illegal because it is easier to go to your own fighter and say, I want you to fall in the 4th or 3rd round or 5th round. They both make money, and then they both capitalize off of the scenario. So in order to loop around to the Adin Ross situation, again, what he stated is it is unethical, and he said this on multiple occasions. He's even taken accountability for it. He said he's not going to do it again. More than likely because he wants to take the Brandrisk brand a bit more seriously, and there more than likely are companies and other sponsors who are inquiring about, his ability to bet on his own fights. So they're probably saying, look, if you continue to bet on your fights, we won't be able to promote it because it kind of looks bad in the public sphere. We know you're allowed to do it legally. There's nothing wrong with it, but we don't want that type of negative publicity associated with our brand or our product. So what he's indicated is, he's not going to be betting on his own fights in the future. So what can we see so far? When it comes to Blueface has violated the contract, apparently, allegedly, 2 times. He violated the contract by talking about payment, right? And he also violated the contract when he was fully disparaging the decision that was made at the end of the fight. Also, one of the other deliverables that he wasn't able to fulfill was wearing the Rainbet patch on his trunk. So those are 3 things that we could see were the case. Now, the accusations with Adin Ross is betting on his fights. It's not illegal. It's unethical, of course. But every single time he was talking about betting, what did he say? I will bet that my fighter is going to win, right? I'm going to bet that my fighter is going to win. He never said in any of those scenarios, at least that I've seen, I'm going to bet that my fighter is going to lose, which, again, as we have seen from Google AI, is illegal, okay? All right, so now at this point, Blueface comes out, disparages the judges, disparages Brandrisk, and there's conflict going on behind the scenes that, the viewers are not fully aware about, right? And in my opinion, I think this is where this whole conversation was happening with Adin Ross when he was doing his sus behavior with Wack100. But what was happening is they were trying to come to a conclusion, or they were trying to come to a negotiation to ensure that payment was going to be paid out, right? So this was going on behind the scenes. Nothing wrong. Everything is going good. Then, in my opinion, what ended up happening was... Also, so this message that Wack100 posted on Instagram was basically the statement that Adin Ross wanted from Wack100 and Blueface so that he could ensure that they get paid out, right? So there's talk here about, potentially making over $300K and striking that out from, public record, saying, you know what, Adin and Brandrisk did not pay me $300K. That's not true, et cetera, et cetera. There's also the idea that even if I disagree with the Florida Athletic Commission's decision, that had nothing to do with Brandrisk or Adin. So there's elements in there that Adin and Brandrisk wanted Blueface to touch upon in order for them to decide, okay, we're going to, issue your payment. And on top of that, that was happening behind the scenes along with this text message. Everything is going fine. No one knows what's happening. No one knows about what's going on, right? Now, that is until Wack100 put up this message or put up this post, right? And he said, opinion is an opinion, is not okay. I stood behind Adin Ross as it was his opinion, and I def stand behind Blueface baby and his opinion. One can't be opinion and the other slander, right? Gear up, the content is coming. So what is Wack100 referring to in this scenario, right?
Brandrisk, do you want a rematch? Or
so what Wack100 is basically saying is that
never that. I don't know
this
what
was
he's talking
Blueface's
about.
opinion.
Doechii rant? Oh, dude, don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that industry plant. You guys can say whatever you want about me, but one thing about me is I'm not an industry plant. Doechii, the umbrella clip pissed me off. What an entitled, unintelligent piece of shit she is, bro. She deserves, bro. I'm not joking, bro. Stop listening to her music. Cardi and Abel, why would you give her a feature on a remix? You shouldn't have cleared it. She makes no good music. She's horrible.
All right. So what that whole post was about, it was actually misconstrued by Adin Ross. So what Wack100 was basically saying with this post is that this was Blueface's opinion, similar to the opinion that you gave about Doechii a couple of months ago. And in both scenarios, I'm standing by both of my friends or both of my family, the people that I associate with closely, you, Adin Ross, and Blueface. When an opinion is relayed to the public, I'm going to stand behind you 100%, despite the people that that may be affected. And I think with this scenario, Doechii is signed to TDE, if I'm not mistaken. So Blueface or Wack100 was actually telling Adin Ross that I had to go to TDE and let them know that, listen, Adin Ross is cool or whatever. This is my people, let it stand down. This is just his opinion. It is not a fact, right? So we don't have to do any, legal recourse, or we don't have to proceed any further when it comes to this. However, again, so going back to what I was saying, Adin Ross now sees this, and that's when Adin Ross decides he's going to go public, because he's like, listen, we're in the middle of fixing this whole situation. Why would you post something like this? But what Wack100 said, it was, I only posted this because I was just trying to show the world that I'm standing behind my people when they voice their opinion. Like you voiced your opinion when it came to Doechii, I'm standing behind Blueface when he states his opinion about Brandrisk, okay, or about Adin Ross. It's all an opinion. This is what Wack is getting behind. This is what Wack is trying to say. It's all an opinion, nothing else, right? And I think what Wack is trying to do is trying to save face and say, no, this is not libel. This is not a fact. This is not an accusation. This is just an opinion at the end of the day. And Adin Ross actually speaks on this, so let's see. Or this is actually spoke upon, so let's see what they have to say.
Wait, hold on. We're in the middle of figuring this out behind closed doors to find a happy medium, and you post that. So then I go on stream that night, and that's when I started what you just said. Started going, yeah. Can you blame me for defending myself?
But Adin, how could you defend? Listen, you're saying you're defending yourself on a clip that I defended you on.
No, but Wack, you're missing the point. You posting that clip is like you gearing up, getting ready to start.
What I'm saying
is
both
yes,
you motherfuckers. Look, I'm gonna be real. Let me speak frankly. I'm gonna be real. And Act, you know this to be true. You know Top Dog is my brother. You know that, right? Yeah. That's his artist, right? Adin, you have no fucking idea the conversation I had to have. And I said the same shit. It's Adin's opinion, bro. That's it.
I know.
Right, so essentially that was a whole situation. It was a confusion, miscommunication. Adin, at the end of the day, thought that Wack100 was basically trying to throw salt in the whole negotiations. Now we're gonna take it back to Brandrisk, and again, so this basically another contradiction with the whole case that Blueface is trying to put forward in terms of Adin Ross rigging the fight, right? Because even Wack100 came out on, even Wack100 was on stream admitting that Adin Ross has nothing to do with the decisions. And I think this is the reason why, or this is why Wack100 is trying to say that it is just Blueface's opinion, is nothing bigger than that. He's trying to cushion everything that's happened so far. So let's hear what Wack100 actually says.
Just controlled it, and the judges made the effort.
We got to respect their call.
Respect their call.
You may not have to agree, but you got to respect.
Exactly.
Same last month. We thought Gabe won. So,
Facts.
yeah, same last month. So, yeah.
So even Wack100 says we got to respect their call. Meanwhile, your artist is doing interviews saying that Adin Ross rigged the fight and the judges are crooked. So, okay, you know what? Let me rephrase that. Your artist is coming out saying that the fight is rigged based on the decision. So Wack is basically trying to say that is Blueface's opinion, okay? So now from there we get into, so just to recap what's happening. So Blueface is talking smack after the fight, says the fight was rigged. Afterwards, Rainbet is like, we don't like what Blueface said. Plus on top of that, Blueface violated the contract on multiple occasions. We don't know if we want to pay full Blueface's full amount. Adin Ross goes to Wack and says, listen, this is what's going on behind the scenes. Let's try to figure something out. Let's try to fix it. The way we could fix it is if Blueface comes out and says the fight's not fixed and Adin Ross and Brandrisk, don't rig the fights, right? That's all that needs to be done. For some reason, that is not happening. For some reason, no one wants to come out and state that, this isn't the case, right? And because of that tweet that I showed, or that because of that Instagram post that I showed earlier with Wack100 voicing his opinion on Adin Ross and Doechii, this is what Adin comes out to say in response. So again, Adin is basically, I'll play it and then give my commentary.
Sucks because he is probably one of the worst people to ever work with when it comes to business ever. He breached another confidential, like he can't speak about anything, money, how much he got paid or whatnot. And we asked him to retract his statements and he didn't. We gave him some time. We didn't want to do it. Now we're going to do it. We tried working with him and Wack, and they weren't really fucking with it. And they didn't want to work with us. So sucks. We tried. I literally wanted to pay him multiple times. You could ask Ak. Every fighter got paid after Brandrisk. Every fighter. Everybody's paid because you can't go around saying that shit's rigged, and you can't not wear a Rainbet patch on your shorts when you contractually sign an obligation. And you can't talk about how much you're paying or being paid.
All right. So again, we already went over this, but so the only reason why Adin Ross actually went out in the public and discussed this was that Instagram post that Wack100 just put up. So again, it was a miscommunication, right? Wack was trying to show support for Adin, but Adin looked at it like, yo, dude, what are you doing? Why would you come out in public and push this, right? So now we get to Blueface. So now Blueface goes in public and he starts talking about Adin Ross, right? And what he says is, looking for a way not to pay is not a good look. I'm going to get mines regardless. And I want you guys just to compartmentalize that in the back of your mind, because him saying that, I think, is one of the reasons why I feel that he's already been paid by Wack100, and now it's just a negotiation for Adin Ross to reimburse, or for Brandrisk to reimburse Wack100 without knowing that Wack100 already covered Blueface. Because the way Blueface is acting, remember in that first video that I played, or in the video where he talks about, yo, I got paid, or I'm getting paid over 300 stacks, so it doesn't matter to me. He's very confident about the money he got or the money he's getting, right? So maybe that could have been an agreement between Wack100 and Blueface to, even though there is a risk of you not having to fight Swaggy P, if you have to fall, I'm gonna still pay you, and whatever happens with the Brandrisk stuff, we'll figure that out afterwards. And one thing to even consider was, you know, Adin has been making conventions so that this fight is a little bit, now I don't want to say more in favor of Blueface, but at least more accommodating to Blueface. What was one of those elements? One of those elements was, actually I'll get to that later, but one of the elements was switching the fight count, I believe, from 4 rounds to 6 rounds, right? So we'll get to that later on. But so Blueface says, look, looking for a way not to pay taxes is not a good look. I'm gonna get mine regardless. Adin goes, you're so unintelligent. You're so unintelligent, and all you had to do was retract what you said about Ish being rigged, and you would have been paid in full. Take some accountability like a grown man. You lost. You breach your contract that you signed. That's nobody's fault. Do not sign and agree to a contract if you're going to breach out. That's how the law works, dummy. Everyone else got paid out quick, but you, because you breached. All you had to do was drop the tough guy act, retract what you said about Ish being rigged, and you would have been paid in full. All right, then the next one is, all he had to do was say something like, it wasn't rigged. Florida State Athletic Commission doesn't rig their fights. He could have kept his ego tough street guy act and said, F Adin, never working with Brandrisk again. I gave him 72 hours to fix this. He didn't. Blue, for future business, do not sign a contract agreeing to deliverables and not following through. You're the first fighter in Brandrisk history I've ever struggled paying. Now, Blueface responded to this and said, never said how much I was paid. The excuses are becoming evident. Was never contracted to wear a patch. And even if I was fined $100K, that's not even half of what's owed. Okay, what's owed to who? That's one question. What's owed to who? Talking about retract my statement. Why would I do that if I was never compensated further? Proving my point. This was bad business from the opponent changing a week before the fight and my original opponent still on the event. Now, that's not necessarily bad business. That's just a circumstance of, you know, things happening. And again, it wouldn't be able to get done unless you've signed off on it as a fighter, whether it's in your contract or whether it was negotiated by your representatives, right? Like in the contract, it would more than likely state that in the event that a fighter can't make it due to some sort of injury or because the commission, the Florida Gaming Commission indicates, or whatever the case is, you know, can we reserve the right to swap out fighters? And in the event that there's negotiations, if you have a good representation, a good legal team, they would state, okay, cool, under these circumstances. So, for example, the circumstance would be with Chibu. The fight has to go from 4 rounds to 6. So that was one of the set of negotiations that would have to occur in the event that the fight is going to be changed from Ruga to Chibu, right? So, and again, so they presumed that because of this, Chibu was going to gas out. Clearly, it didn't happen, and we saw the result of the actual fight. All right, and then so now Charleston adds further context to what went on behind the scenes, or to what's going on in terms of the relationship with you know, Brandrisk and the whole scenario. So let's see what Charleston White has to say about that.
This probably one of the best Brandrisk events. Man, let me just say this. I ain't never had no problem getting paid by Adin. Everybody that I brought to Adin have not had a problem getting paid. I brought at least 6 different people to Adin Ross. Everybody's gotten paid. Now, all of a sudden, it's a problem with the LA niggas because the LA niggas lost. The LA niggas was betting and lost. Sore losers. Take, man, them niggas sore losers, homie. Nah, man, I'm just gonna be real, my nigga. Wack, you wrong, my nigga. Blueface is a hoe. That nigga crying, my nigga. That nigga crying because Chibu whooped him.
And so that's Charleston White's take on it. Blueface is crying because Chibu whooped him. I'm not going to put it in those terms. For me, I just think Blueface is trying to save his reputation. And in the event that, now from the beginning, I thought that Chibu was, I'm not going to say it was going to work Blueface, but I thought Chibu was going to put, belt to ass, if they want to call it that, because a lot of people didn't analyze Chibu's previous fights. Chibu was a quick fighter. He could throw his hands. And on top of that, the fights that he had previously, he was big. So if he was training, which he clearly was, and he's been losing weight from his previous fights up to the Blueface fight, which was shown in the Brandrisk trailer, the amount of weight that Chibu actually lost, he was definitely going to give Blueface a run for his money, which he essentially did, okay? So now what's happening? So we had a call with Akademiks, and then we had a call with Adin Ross, and they were just trying to rectify the situation. And I feel that there's an indication that Blueface has already been paid. And all Wack100 is trying to do right now is he's trying to preserve his business relationship with Adin. And rightfully so. I mean, clearly, Wack100 understands how important the internet game is. And one of the personalities who's on top of the internet content creation scene is Adin Ross. So why would Wack100 burn that bridge with Adin Ross, right? So this is Wack100 talking about payment.
Yes, sir.
You know, I had a whole lot of costs coming that way, right?
Yep, right. So did I, so did everyone else, yes.
No. Well, your ass is already there, right? I had to come there, right? You know I had 20 people with me. You know I'm staying at the Fountain Blue. You know it take ground. Adin, who you think front loading that shit?
I would assume you are Blue.
Wack100, right?
Well, that's awesome.
So what I'm saying is, we all got a headache right now. You get what I'm saying? Because I never thought it was going to be a fucking problem. Like, I never...
Yeah, me neither, bro. You know, sometimes things get out of hand and miscommunication. I will tell you, though, bro, I can't guarantee anything. I need to call Rainbet. You could be on that call. Because at this point, bro, this is exploding. This is all on the internet now, and everything just seems forced.
Right. So what Wack100, I think what Wack100 is basically trying to tell Adin Ross is in code. He's trying to say, listen, I had to front load all this money to get Blueface over there, right? To do the favor for you. And remember, going back to what the favor was Blueface can fight. However, I have to go back to the promoters of the Swaggy P and Blueface match and let them know, okay, there is a possibility that Blueface may be at risk. However, he has an opportunity here. I'm going to ensure things go as smooth as possible. So Wack100 is trying to tell Adin Ross in code, like, look, I had to front a lot of the things that are occurring right now. So, you know, try to go a little bit easy on making things streamlined and flow as smooth as possible to ensure that I get, you know, my compensation back, right? And this is further reiterated later in the conversation.
Paying them a dime, to be honest. Just being honest. I mean, why would you? It's breach, it's leaks, so that's what I'm trying to say. Like, why would I? If you were in that situation.
Let me tell you why would you, Adin?
Sure.
You say you my fucking friend, right?
Yes.
But what that's worth? Because I didn't hesitate for you.
That's
and I know it probably doesn't register to you.
But Wack, you can't act like the.
What he's talking about is that post. Remember the post where people were going in on Adin for crashing out on Doechii. He's saying, I was representing for you. Now I need you to represent for me.
Victim here. You went to the internet first.
And then, sorry, I keep cutting it off, but Adin's trying to show you, listen, why are you acting like you're the victim? You're not the victim. Like, it's not you. But what Wack is trying to tell him subliminally is, yes, I am the victim because I put up the money for this to pay Blueface.
Victim. I'm saying, bro, if you fucking think I didn't listen, bro, act, you know what I'm saying. If you think I didn't have to stand in the fire and I never said nothing because I was acting as a friend, right? No hesitation, right? Do for me what the fuck you know I did for you.
But
I've already danced.
Wack, can I just say one thing?
So
I respect you as a person. I think you are.
So Adin Ross is not getting it. I think Akademiks already knows the circumstances that occurred in order to get Blueface to fight in this fight, which which some of that was Wack100 fronting the fight, fronting the costs for Blueface to ensure that he fights in this fight. Now, Wack100, if he's messing with you, he's the type of person that's going to make things happen. All he just asks is for you to return the favor. In his mind, the favor is putting Blueface on the bill. We can't fool ourselves. Blueface being on this bill was a huge draw for the fight. Absolutely. And that's probably one of the reasons why at first we didn't really hear Rainbet causing too much of a stir, causing too much of a commotion, that Blueface did not have the Rainbet patch on his draws. Because, okay, cool, this one fighter doesn't have Rainbet. It would be beneficial if he did. However, we have Rainbet plastered all over this fight. So the amount of eyes that are going to see Rainbet everywhere else is going to balance itself out without Blueface wearing it on his shorts. And people are saying, well, if Blueface wasn't wearing Rainbet on his shorts, why would you even allow him to fight? Well, you got to ask yourself the question. If a lot of people don't like dealing with rappers, because a lot of times, now I'm not saying Blueface does have one, but a lot of times rappers do have a diva mentality. So it could have been in Adin Ross's best decision, or a decision to say, you know what, we're not even going to press that issue. We've got him here. He's one of the biggest draws of the whole night. Let's just try to accommodate him as much as possible, just to ensure he gets out in the ring, he fights, and everything goes down, right?
Are very good and you're a driven guy. And let me just explain this to you, okay? I give you your flowers for that. Now, when you call Wack, or when you call Ack in the beginning, I did you a favor. Yes, okay? You can count it as that. I count it as a business transaction, as friends. It's a six-figure favor, right? Like at the end of the day, it's a business agreement. It's a contract involved, everything.
I get all that. I'm not even.
Okay. So I'm putting myself in. I'm putting myself in Rainbet's shoes.
And guess what, Adin? I want you to understand this, and I know you probably don't get it. When you call me, brother, I put myself in a situation as well.
And I appreciate that, bro. Thank you.
So what I'm saying is, right, this ain't about Blueface right now.
Say it about Blueface.
This is about, because me and you, all this right here, the seed planet water was me and you.
It's about Adin and Wack.
He wouldn't even been in that ring.
Blueface,
of course, you're his
Blueface
manager,
is
you
already
represent
taken
him.
care of.
No, Adin. It was me and your conversation that even led to the business. Without Adin and Wack, boom. So what I'm saying is this. When I was called upon, I moved.
Mm-hmm.
You called upon. I'm asking you to do for me what I did for you.
Right.
And Wack, I'm going to call Rainbet because I want to get you paid just as bad, bro, as you want to get paid. I promise.
Yeah, so Wack100 is saying, listen, you're being called upon to help me out. But unfortunately, I guess Adin doesn't understand what's being talked about. And I think there was actually another stream that Adin did, and he was referring to not believing that Wack100 and Blueface didn't know that he owned Rainbet. But anyways, at the end of the day, I would like to hear what you guys think about this. Again, so this is the reason why I think that, number one, Blueface was already paid by Wack100. Number two, Wack100 now is basically doing a bit of damage control to ensure that Wack100 gets his money compensated back. At the end of that DJ Akademiks stream, they kept saying, yo, why don't you bring Blueface into this conversation, bring him in this conversation, etc., etc. Wack is like, nah, this is just, we don't need to bring him in. Even Akademiks said, you know what? I feel like if it was just Blueface, Adin, no lawyers or whatever, this would have been done smoothly. Wack is like, no, that needs to be done. Every time they try to summon Blueface into this discussion, Wack is doing everything in his favor to keep him out of the discussion. So I think that business transaction has already been completed, signed, sealed, and delivered. And that's a business transaction with Wack and Blueface. Now what Wack is trying to establish and what Wack is just trying to he's trying to mend is his relationship with Adin Ross. Now, of course, it doesn't seem like there's any bad blood between Adin Ross and Wack100, but I think that Adin Ross doesn't know the full context of what occurred behind the scenes with Wack100 and Blueface. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if, in my opinion, Wack100 actually told Blueface to make it seem like everything you're saying is in your opinion, so we could kind of just continue along this road until things get done. However, I would like to hear what you guys have to think about this. What you guys think about this? Do you feel that, despite all that, Adin was at fault and Adin still needs to pay up? Where the money at? In my opinion, I don't think so. I think Rainbet, and Rainbet said they're going to pay based on, the deliverables that were completed. It's entirely up to them. When you sign a contract with someone, you're subject to the terms and conditions of the contract, despite you putting your life on the line. If a company tells you they're going to pay you $1 million to go in the ocean and swim with the sharks, despite you potentially losing your life, if they said you have to wear Kim Kardashian bathing suit and you have to dye your hair pink, and you only wear the bathing suit and you don't dye your hair pink, they have the whole right to say, oh yeah, we're only going to pay you 50% if it's based on. In fact, they probably don't even have to pay you because you didn't deliver the deliverables. In terms of bad business, I don't think Adin Ross conducted any bad business. But again, I don't have the contract in front of me, so I can't comment on that, 100%. In terms of Adin Ross fixing fights, I don't think he's fixing fights. Again, we saw that it is unethical to bet on your own fighter, but it's not illegal. It's only illegal when you bet on your fighter to lose, right? And he was betting on that his fighters win, right? And switching fighters, bad business. Again, these are things that you sign off on. So if you really have an issue with it, you have the opportunity not to fight. But so at the end of the day, guys, I would like to hear what you guys think about this. In the meantime, in between time, it's the Milkman. And let me know, do you guys think that, again, it's Adin Ross's fault? Do you think it's Wack100's fault? Do you think it's Blueface? Whose fault do you think it is? Let me know. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm off this. Peace.